You have stood in a room like this before. Rows of chairs facing forward. Flowers arranged just so. Someone speaking in the hushed voice reserved for exactly one occasion. You have done this. Your parents did this. Their parents did this. Back through every generation you can name, and thousands more you cannot name at all. But the real reason you do this is far stranger than grief. Somewhere on this planet right now, a herd of elephants is standing over the body of one of their own. They will not walk away. Some will touch the bones with their trunks, slowly, almost carefully, as though checking for something that is no longer there. A few will return to that same spot for days, sometimes years, long after the body itself has vanished into the ground. And yet, no elephant has ever dug a hole for another elephant. No elephant has ever placed an object beside a body on purpose. No elephant has ever marked a spot so that others would know to come back. You are the only species on this planet that deliberately buries its dead, not hides them, not scavenges them, buries them with intention, often with objects placed beside them, sometimes with a story attached about where they are going next. Why would a creature spend hours digging a hole for something that can no longer feel, see, or know? The elephant researcher Cynthia Moss spent decades in Kenya's Amboseli National Park watching exactly this kind of behavior up close. She documented elephants standing guard over dead herd members for hours, lifting bones with their trunks, and returning to old elephant graveyards on paths that seemed to exist for no practical reason at all. It looks like grief. In some ways, it probably is grief. But Moss never once recorded an elephant covering a body with earth. The behavior stops just short of burial, every single time. Chimpanzees do something similar. Primatologist James Anderson has studied cases where chimps groom a dying companion in its final hours, then sit near the body afterward in what looks almost like a vigil. Mothers have been recorded carrying the mummified bodies of infants for weeks. Still, no burial, no hole, no covering. The behavior is close. It is not the same thing. So what is the difference? What is it that you do that they do not? To answer that, you have to go back. Not centuries, not even thousands of years. You have to go back roughly 100,000 years to a cave in what is now northern Israel called Qafzeh, where archaeologists found human remains placed deliberately in the ground, curled into position, with a deer antler resting against the chest of one skeleton. That antler did not fall there by accident. Someone placed it. The archaeologist Paul Pettit, who has spent his career studying the origins of burial, argues that this moment represents something enormous in human history. Not because a body was disposed of. Bodies decompose whether you bury them or not. The enormous part is the intention behind it. Placing an object with a body means you were thinking about that body as something more than a corpse. You were thinking about it as someone who might still need something. A tool, a gift, a companion for wherever they were going next. That single act, an antler placed against a chest, is evidence of a mind capable of imagining a future that does not exist yet. A mind capable of believing in something beyond what the eyes can see. Here is where the story gets stranger. For a long time, scientists believed this kind of symbolic burial belonged only to modern humans, to people with brains exactly like yours. Then, in a cave system in South Africa called Rising Star, researchers led by paleoanthropologist Lee Berger discovered something that should not have been possible. Deep inside a nearly inaccessible chamber, they found the remains of a small-brained hominin species called Homo naledi, a creature with a brain roughly one-third the size of yours, arranged in ways that looked deliberate. Bodies placed in a specific position. A body found near a carved marking on the cave wall. Berger's team argued this was evidence of intentional burial, performed by a species that scientists assumed was far too primitive for anything of the kind. The claim ignited fierce debate. Many researchers pushed back hard, questioning whether the positioning was really intentional or simply the result of natural cave processes over hundreds of thousands of years. That argument is still unresolved today. But notice what the debate itself reveals. Nobody is arguing about whether elephants intentionally bury their dead. Nobody is debating whether chimpanzees dig graves. The fact that scientists are fighting this hard over whether a small-brained ancient hominin might have buried its dead tells you just how significant that behavior is believed to be. Burial is treated as one of the clearest fingerprints of a mind grappling with its own mortality. A mind aware that death is coming and trying, in some small way, to answer it. So maybe the real question was never why you bury your dead. Maybe the real question is what burial is actually for. Here is the counterintuitive part. Burial was never really about the dead. It was about the living. Think about what a grave does. It marks a place. It says, someone was here. Someone mattered. Come back to this spot if you need to remember them. Anthropologists studying grief across cultures have found that this single act, marking a fixed location tied to a person's memory, appears to do something measurable to the humans left behind. It gives sorrow a location. It gives an otherwise formless, overwhelming feeling something solid to stand in front of. A body left in the open decomposes and disappears. A body placed deliberately in the earth, with a marker, creates a kind of permanent address for memory. You do not need the grave for the person who died. You need it for yourself, and for everyone who comes after you carrying that same grief. This is why burial rituals appear again and again across nearly every human culture that has ever existed. Even ones that had no contact with each other, separated by oceans and thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians built entire cities for the dead. Neolithic communities in Europe raised massive stone tombs that took generations to complete. Indigenous cultures across the Americas developed elaborate mound burial systems long before European contact. Different symbols, different beliefs about what happens next. The same underlying instinct, showing up again and again like a signature written in every human society independently. Now think about the last funeral you attended, or the last time you stood at a grave. You probably did not think of yourself as performing an ancient survival behavior shaped over 100,000 years. You just felt like you needed to be there. That feeling is not random. It is the same impulse that placed an antler against a chest in a cave in Qafzeh. It is the same impulse that made a Neolithic community drag stones for miles to build a permanent structure for someone they loved. It is the same impulse that makes you bring flowers to a cemetery even though the person buried there will never see them. You are not just mourning when you do this. You are doing something no elephant, no chimpanzee, and possibly no other hominin species besides your own direct ancestors has ever fully done. You are converting loss into meaning. You are taking the unbearable fact that someone is gone and turning it into a place, a ritual, a story that can be passed down and repeated by people who never even knew the person you are grieving. That is not weakness. That is one of the most sophisticated things a mind can do. So the next time you find yourself standing in a room like that one, rows of chairs facing forward, flowers arranged just so, someone speaking in that hushed voice, remember what you are actually witnessing. It is not simply an ending. It is proof that somewhere along the long road from ancient caves to this exact room, your species learned how to turn grief into something it could hold, something it could return to, something it could survive. You have stood in a room like this before, and every time you have, you were doing something almost no other creature on Earth has ever fully learned how to do.